Oye, compañero, eso sí va a haber clases de física. Sí va a haber clases. Si se le llena más tiempo, secuencias fotográficas.
El Wii es el único que se sabía dónde dejaba cantar. También empezó
Está un poco atentos. Ya puede. Esto es a mí mismo, me debe tocar editar el video. Eso es el nivel. Eso es el
Es que antes se enojaba y no iba a
Muy buenos días con todos. La Universidad Central del Ecuador, el rectorado de la universidad, el vicerrectorado académico y de posgrado de la Facultad de Odontología y el Centro de Física tienen el honor de invitarles a ustedes a que sean parte del conversatorio académico Cirugía Ortognática, Biomecánica en la Técnica MBT. ¿Sí? Tenemos la mesa directiva conformada por el subdecano de la Facultad de Odontología, Óscar Salas, el señor director de posgrado de la Facultad, Alejandro Farfán, director del Centro de Física, el doctor Guillermo Terán, y vicerrector académico, el doctor Nelson Rodríguez, el decano de la Facultad de Odontología, Jorge Naranjo y Zurieta, el doctor Jack Patrick Devereux, conferencista de la Cirugía Ortognática Biomecánica de la Técnica MBT. Como primer punto, tenemos la introducción a la temática a cargo del doctor Jorge Naranjo y Zurieta, decano de la Facultad de Odontología, para quien solicito, por favor, un caluroso aplauso.
Buenos días, querida mesa directiva, nuestro señor vicerrector, muchas gracias por estar aquí, nuestro director de posgrado, nuestro subdecano, doctor Jack Patrick, doctor Terán, muchas gracias por su iniciativa, bienvenidos todos. Cuando usted me conversó sobre esta conferencia que íbamos a tener aquí en la facultad, realmente con el doctor Óscar Salas, se organizó con los posgrados porque es una temática fabulosa. Estos conversatorios académicos realmente nos ayudan mucho a la facultad y al posgrado, especialmente al posgrado, porque son temas más de posgrado que de grado. Muchas gracias, doctor Jack Patrick, por estar en nuestro país. Espero que su estadía en nuestro país sea confortable. Le agradezco mucho por la presencia en nuestra facultad, la realce su presencia a esta facultad de odontología. Muchas gracias a todos, muchas gracias a los invitados, profesores, estudiantes de posgrados. Muchas gracias.
Como segundo punto tenemos la presentación del acto a cargo del doctor Guillermo Terán, director del Centro de Física.
Buenos días, distinguidísimos miembros de la mesa directiva, distinguidos académicos de la Facultad de Odontología, profesionales presentes, estudiantes de esta noble facultad. El Centro de Física, en conjunto con la Facultad de Odontología, siempre preocupados por la academia, hemos logrado estructurar este conversatorio académico. ¿Por qué la presencia del Centro de Física? Dentro de las temáticas de la nanociencia, nosotros tenemos muchas áreas que venimos estudiando a nivel macro, pero en esta ocasión pues hemos creído conveniente, y la oportunidad de la presencia del profesor Jack realmente ha hecho posible que vivamos en la realidad lo multidisciplinario, lo transdisciplinario, como deben ser las unidades académicas acá de la universidad. En ese contexto, pues dentro de la planificación y en conjunto en esta ocasión con la Facultad de Odontología y la apertura que nos ha salido brindar las autoridades de acá de la facultad, nosotros hemos venido colaborando permanentemente. En algunas ocasiones trabajamos en análisis cuantitativo de datos con SPSS, JMP, para buscar un espacio de intercambio académico. Ese ha sido el procedimiento que nosotros hemos tenido como Centro de Física, como Facultad de Ortología. Pero el eje central de este proceso es justamente enriquecernos, lograr este espacio académico para poder debatir. Y considero que este es el espacio académico más formal para nosotros entrar en un proceso de un debate académico altamente profundo y significativo, que realmente va a hacer que nosotros, como actores directos y responsables dentro de la excelencia de la academia, logremos y busquemos estos espacios para poder consolidarnos. Gracias a la presencia del señor vicerrector académico, que siempre ha estado con nosotros, apoyándonos en este proceso académico que nuestra Universidad Central del Ecuador sí lo necesita. Y pensamos que estos son los espacios en los cuales nosotros, como responsables de la academia y las diferentes instancias, estamos nosotros visualizando y ofreciendo a la comunidad de investigadores, de docentes y futuros docentes de nuestra alma mater. Muchísimas gracias, señor vicerrector, a las autoridades y a la presencia del profesor Jacques, muy amable por compartir esas experiencias que esperamos ansiosos cubran con las expectativas que nosotros tenemos acá. Muchísimas gracias.
Como tercer punto, tenemos la apertura del conversatorio a cargo del doctor Nelson Rodríguez Aguirre, vicerrector académico de posgrados de la Universidad Central del Ecuador.
Buenos días. Los tres miembros de la mesa directiva, el profesor Devereux. Nuevamente saludamos y damos la bienvenida a esta universidad, la Universidad Central del Ecuador. Queremos al mismo tiempo agradecer a la Facultad de Ortología y Centro de Física por propiciar estudiar. La academia en estos momentos necesita cada vez más el intercambio, la relación entre disciplinas y entre campos de conocimiento. Solamente de esa manera se pueden ir abordando los retos que el desarrollo científico y tecnológico tiene para la formación profesional. Por esa razón, el conversatorio del día de hoy, que tiene como centro en realidad los temas de la odontología. Sin embargo, estos, entiendo, no se pueden explicar plenamente si no es un concurso también de otras disciplinas. Qué bueno por los estudiantes de posgrado, que van a tener la posibilidad de abrir su comprensión hacia otras posibilidades para abordar el tratamiento profesional, el tratamiento de las enfermedades, las patologías, los problemas que son propios de su campo disciplinar. Esperamos que este conversatorio, profesor, sea el inicio de relaciones mucho más cercanas entre la Universidad Central, la Facultad de Ortología, y su lugar de trabajo, como yo tengo conocimiento.
Universidad de Luciana.
Me gustaría entonces que esto también sea motivo de acercar a nuestras instituciones. Por favor, acepto nuestro reconocimiento. Nuevamente, el decano, el señor director del Centro de Física, el señor director de posgrado, pues multipliquen estos conversatorios. Creo que es el momento de trabajar de forma más horizontal, ir rompiendo la visión disciplinar que a veces nos caracteriza. Y mientras más podamos acercarnos con otras miradas a la ciencia, a la tecnología aplicada a la profesión, mucho mejor será el rol que cumple la universidad. Muchas gracias, y creo que el conversatorio necesita ya de paso escuchar al profesor. Muchas gracias. Por favor.
A continuación, la presentación del conferencista Dr. Jacques Patrick Devereux, Jr., doctor en Cirugía Médica, Master of Science. A continuación, una breve reseña, autobiografía de Jacques Patrick Devereux, Jr. Es doctor en cirugía dental. Él vive actualmente en Los Ángeles. Tiene 4 niños con Cindy Moore Devereux, Quincy Mary, de 29 años, Jack Patrick III, de 27, Caitlin Elizabeth, de 24, y Gabriel Nicole, adoptada de China cuando tenía 10 años. Actualmente ella tiene 16 años de edad. Él es ortodoncista práctico, ha estudiado en la Universidad de Luisiana, ubicada en Baton Rouge, de 1975 a 1978. Además, ha estudiado en la Escuela de Dentistas en la Universidad de Luisiana en 1982, donde obtuvo el Doctor of Dental Surgery. En la Universidad de North Carolina, Chapel Hill, 1985, obtiene su Master of Science in Orthodontics, es decir, una maestría en ortodoncista, máster en Ciencias de la Ortodoncia. Diplomado del Cuerpo Americano de Ortodoncistas en 1996. Ha servido a la familia, a la comunidad y a la profesión de muchas maneras, dentro de las cuales destacan las siguientes. Su publicación de la maestría la publicó como Facial Soft Tissue Response to Surgical Maxillary Intrusion. Además, es presidente de la Asociación de Ortodoncistas en Luisiana. Ha servido a la Asociación Dental en Nueva Orleans en el cuerpo de conferencistas por más de 3 años. Además, en la parte de la empresarial para bonos o ayudas económicas a diferentes instituciones. Ha servido como director en el cuerpo de ortodoncia del Centro Americano, mientras está enlistado en Nueva York y es el sucesor de los ortodoncistas. Ha tenido muchas lecturas en muchas reuniones dentales, dentro de las cuales destacan Louisiana Association of Orthodontists Annual Meeting, MKS 2017, Pro Ortho 2015, multiple OCA and OSI Annual Meeting, Invisalign Study Club Speaker. También fue profesor adjunto en el Departamento de Ortodoncia de la Escuela de Dentistas en el 2006 y presentó 2 cursos nombrados como suplente. Además, es dueño de Orthodontist DN, una práctica ortodoncista que tiene ubicaciones privadas. Además, ha realizado contribuciones económicas que llegan al $1.000.000 para bonos docentes. Además, en la Capital Campaign Remain Raising Money, ha aportado económicamente para la construcción de varias infraestructuras de orden para los niños de escasos recursos y de poca edad. También ha sido parte de School Board of SMM por aproximadamente 18 años, School Board PZP Catholic High School for 8 years, Lecture SMM Church. Además, ha sido miembro de Knight of Columbus and ESM Men's Club, miembro de Envision since 1989 and Bachus de 2009, Marcy Grasp News. Ha sido miembro de Kiwanis y sirvió en K-Club Youth Advisor. Adicionalmente, tenemos la compañía de Mr. Wilson Bastidas, quien es un marino retirado de las Fuerzas Americanas. Él es Master of Training Specialist and Bachelor of Science. Por favor, solicito un caluroso aplauso para Patrick Devereux.
Muchas gracias por such a wonderful
Muchas gracias por la venida tan grande.
the introduction was
La introducción es finalmente muy buena.
Thank you all for coming.
Muchas gracias por estar presentes.
This is your lecture.
Esta es una lección de ustedes.
I'm going to give a short talk on the things that make my practice different in the United States.
Les voy a dar unos pocos ejemplos de lo que ha hecho una práctica muy buena en los Estados Unidos.
And then your students,
Y después de eso, ustedes,
and anything you want to talk about, we will talk about.
lo que ustedes deseen hablar, con mucho gusto hablamos de eso.
Okay.
Por favor, un momentito, les deseo decirles algo. Yo no soy un dentista y hay muchas cosas que el doctor Devereux va a hablarle que tal vez no puedan traducirlas exactamente. Por eso me disculpan y aquí tengo la ayuda del muchacho y el señor Bastidas si necesito algo me ayuda. Pero acuérdense de eso, por favor. Yo no soy un profesional tratador de dentistas.
Orthodontics in the history in the United States
La historia de ortodoncia en los Estados Unidos
it was very expensive and it was for few people.
era muy cara y era solamente para gente que tenía mucho dinero.
Through technology and practice management, it is now available to almost any child that needs it.
Por medio de la última tecnología, avances de la tecnología y por la manera que han usado las oficinas de los Estados Unidos, ahora ya se puede traer un tratamiento a la mayoría de gente.
In the United States, most orthodontics is delivered in private practice offices.
En los Estados Unidos, la mayoría de los ortodónticos son oficinas privadas.
It is important to create demand or to have people want to come see you to have a successful business.
Lo más importante de las oficinas que tiene es que tiene que tener una demanda para que la gente te venga a ver.
What I have done
Lo que he hecho
is create a patient-centered practice.
ha creado un lugar para los pacientes, para que ellos pasen bien, guiado a los pacientes.
Excellent care is expected.
Lo más importante es cómo les tratas a los pacientes.
Excellent technology is expected.
La tecnología que tú tienes en tus oficinas.
Excellent patient services are not.
Servicios para los pacientes es lo que importa más. Eso es lo más importante de todo.
So I have specialized in making the
Es
patient
especializado
experience
hacer
wonderful.
una experiencia para los pacientes muy buena. Eso es lo que más se preocupan ellos, a los pacientes.
And that starts with the very first contact,
Eso empieza con la primera vez que ves a un paciente,
the telephone.
el teléfono, si te llaman por teléfono o algo.
When your patient calls,
Cuando tu paciente te llama,
next slide. I got it. No, there. No, back. These are the keys, in my opinion,
esas son las cosas en su opinión que son las más importantes para una buena oficina.
to a successful office in 2017.
En una oficina que sea muy buena en 2700.
There are hard lessons that have been learned over the last 30 years.
Son lecciones que él ha aprendido muy duros en 30 años.
Customer service,
Customer service.
Servicio al cliente.
Gracias.
quality and comfort of treatment,
Calidad y comportamiento de treatment. Gracias. No necesitan ustedes que le traduzca, ¿no?
Can I speak English?
No, todo está bien, le traduzco o le sigo nomás así. ¿Perdón? ¿Que hable nomás él? You talk, you don't need translation. Go, you got it.
Financial arrangements, how we deal with fees for our patients, because most of our patients are private pay. I'm not sure how it works here in Ecuador, but in the United States, probably 80% of patients pay their own bills. So financial arrangements are extremely important. Office appeal, you want to make your office look inviting. And technology. Technology is not going to make you a successful orthodontist, but it will wow patients and it will make your life easier if you stay on the cutting edge and stay off the bleeding edge of technology. Okay. Who's great in our country with customer service? Comes to mind is Chick-fil-A. No one knows how much you care, what you know until they know how much you care. That is a saying that I've had taught to me when I was your age, and it is more true now than it ever was. You can be the smartest person, and if you don't care, you're not going to do the best job. And your patients have to know that you care before they worry about what you know. Chick-fil-A, when you walk into a Chick-fil-A, do they have Chick-fil-A in Ecuador? This is on the cutting edge of customer service. You walk into Chick-fil-A, they recognize you as you walk in, they ask how they can help you, they're attentive to your service, they get your orders right and correct the first time, and if they don't, they make it right. So I'm going backwards. In our country, the most common first contact is the telephone or the internet, but mostly the contact is telephone. And you need to have enough people who are skilled at answering the phone to answer the phone in 3 rings. When their phone rings longer than that, they think you're too busy for them. So get the phone answered in 3 rings. Make sure the people that are answering your phone are smiling. When you smile, that comes through. When you smile on the telephone, you can feel that through the telephone. Get the information that you need and that they need on that initial contact phone call. You're going to need their name, address, phone number so you can get in contact with them, some of their insurance information. They're going to want to know about how much it's going to cost, what your hours of operation are, whether you can even take care of that. You have to be able to answer their questions or have someone on the phone that can answer their questions on that first phone call. If they're having to call back all the time with answers, it doesn't look like you know what you're doing. When they come into your office, they should be greeted as they walk through the door, and they should be seated in a treatment chair within 15 minutes of coming into your office. Your office should not look like a train station with people just packed in there. They should be seen by the doctor. In my office, people get their braces on the very first visit. If they're current with their dental examinations and there's no pathology, they can come in, so they only have to miss 1 day of work to get their braces. We have digital records, that's where technology comes in. We have digital cameras, everything is computerized, so there's no charts, there's no paper. We can do a digital record exam, treatment plan and diagnosis on the first visit and put their braces on in the first visit. So that patient only misses school 1 hour and the parent only misses work 1 hour. And that is very, very important where I am. And that sets my practice apart from a lot of other practices that take 2 or 3 visits to get braces. This is some of my team, because great customer service is not me, it's my team. I have 140 employees, and we have 14 different offices. This is my partner. This is my COO. This is more of my management team, and this is a segment of my employees at one of our office parties. My partner and I were recognized by the Progressive Orthodontics magazine last year. This is the city of New Orleans. This is where most of my offices are. And my partner is Fong Nguyen. He's a graduate at LSU. And we've been in partnership for 11 years. I got ahead of my slides. Once you get their braces on, if it hurts really, really bad, they're going to tell their friends that braces do what? They hurt. How can you make braces not hurt so much? It's not rocket science. Don't use bands. Bands hurt to put on. If at all possible, direct bond every tooth. Those are easy to put on. They stay on just as good as bands. They work actually better because there's no spaces left in between the teeth. Put your brackets on in the right place. Very few things hurt worse. How many orthodontic residents are here? How many people are going to do orthodontics? One of the things I teach my residents is when you put the braces on, look down the slots. And if the tooth isn't crooked, the slots ought to line up in your braces. If they don't, those teeth are going to move when they don't have to, and they're going to hurt. Put your braces on in the right position and progress your wires logically. Forces should always be light, gentle, and continuous. You put a heavy wire in, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. You treat your patients the way you'd want to be treated yourself. Start with that 14-round night valve. I don't know in metric system. 0.014 of an inch. Super elastic nickel titanium wires. Very gentle, initiates tooth movement, very little pain, and patients are comfortable. If you start like this, you're going to have comfortable patients. You're going to call them up that night because they want to know how much you care, right? Someone should, from your office, should call them the night they get their braces and find out how they're doing. Now, if you're an orthodontist, you know that first night it doesn't hurt at all. The second day it hurts a little bit more. But call them the first night. The goodwill that you create is amazing. How much you care. That's my dog. That's one of my dogs. That's Buddy. Another way that we make orthodontics extremely comfortable is with clear alignment therapy. Probably 50 to 60% of patients now can be treated, I think, successfully with clear alignment therapy. Do y'all do much of that here in Ecuador? Invisalign, 2 major providers. It's getting to be more and more possible to do this in your own office, though, with 3D printing and the computer systems that are getting better and better. But you can mess up Invisalign too. You can make Invisalign hard to do. I start on that first visit using a scanner rather than impressions. The scanner is not messy. It takes 2 minutes. It is easy on the patients, and they're just wowed by the idea that they don't have to get stuff in their mouth. The aligners come back about 2 weeks faster. We live in a society, at least in the United States, where people want things today. So the faster we can get things to them, the happier they are. Invisalign, if you take molds and send it to Invisalign, it's going to take 4 to 5 weeks to get your aligners back. If you send a scan in, we get those back in 3 weeks, which is much better for our patients, and it sets our office apart. Not that many offices have intraoral scanners. So do y'all use them here? Okay. But that is the next big thing in delivering orthodontics. When you deliver your aligners, I don't put attachments. Anybody that's done clear aligner therapy, I don't put the attachments on or do the interproximal reduction on the first visit. Let them have their aligners. Let them think it's wonderful. It's comfortable. It's easy. They can get them on and off really easy. They come back in 4 weeks and they get their second aligner, and aligner number 3. And that's when we do attachments in interproximal reduction. They're already used to it. Now they know how to get the things out and in, and they're comfortable with our office. We've proven to them that we care about it. So we'll delay the things that are uncomfortable about Invisalign or ClearCorrect until they already have a good relationship with our office and they're already comfortable with aligner therapy. Make sure that it fits at the gingiva. More so if you're using impressions. I don't have that much of an issue now that we're using scanners, but with impressions, the impression material, the polyvinyl impression material tends to compress the gingiva. And the aligners will come back and they will compress the gingiva, and that is irritating and can be painful. So check and see if you've got any gingival compression. And if they do, then you need to trim all the aligners you're going to give them. If not, they're going to be irritated and they're going to be upset with you. Invisalign or ClearCorrect still gets some of the edges of the aligners rough. That is irritating to the tongue, especially on the lingual side, on the lowers. I check them myself, but I also give them an emery board. Just a sandpaper board, emery board, they can smooth the edges, and I tell them it's okay. Let them know it's okay to smooth the edges of their aligners. Just don't cut them up. I'm not completely sold, but there's some technology that vibrates, that you bite down on a vibrator and it tends to vibrate the teeth. Some studies show it helps. Those are the ones studies that are usually paid for by the manufacturer. The university studies don't show quite that much difference, but that is coming out in the future. It's Excellident, and it works. I think it works better with Invisalign than it works with regular braces as far as making things comfortable and moving things along. Financial arrangements probably changed the practice that I have more than anything else that I've done. When I started, people were required to pay a third of their fee up front as a down payment, and they were required to pay the balance in a year, which required them to come up with over $1,000 first day, and then fairly high monthly payments of $250, $300 each month that they were in. Of my new patient starts, braces. And I set up financial arrangements that have very low to no down payment. When you come into my office, you're going to be able to get your braces without putting about $250 down. That's your first payment. And then I'll make monthly payments that they can afford. I don't charge interest. I don't have a low fee, but I have an affordable payment plan. They can pay for their braces out over about 2.5 years, where their treatment's going to last about 22 months. So I allow them to pay for their braces over a longer period of time. It allows me to see and start probably 90% of the people that want to come in and get braces, where before it was less than 40%. Now, almost 90% of my patients start with orthodontics on the first day that they come in. 2, it has made my cash flow from a business standpoint, if y'all want to talk business, we'll do that, very, very stable and predictable. Every month, I'm collecting about the same amount. And if I'm growing, that growth occurs slowly, but I never have ups and downs in my income. It's a very slow, predictable growth curve, and it's nice to know exactly how much money you're going to be getting each month from your patient receivables. And my collection rate, or the people that don't pay me, is actually lower now than before because it's easier to make my monthly payments. Does that make sense? How much orthodontics here is private pay? A lot or a little? A lot. A lot. So this makes sense to you. I don't make them come to the office to pay their bill because my appointment intervals are at 8 to 10 weeks. So I send statements to everyone. When I started, we saw patients every 4 weeks. With the advent of super elastic wires, direct bonded brackets, self-ligation, I'm not a great big believer in self-ligation. That's it. Anyway, there's no reason to see your patients every 4 weeks anymore. The hardest thing when I went to these type of systems was that when I went to 8 weeks, they were used to paying their bill in my office, and I had to break them of that habit. So we send statements now so that they disconnect the payment of their braces with the delivery of care. That's why Invisalign patients will see every 12 weeks. Do y'all have much insurance, orthodontic insurance? No, okay, so that doesn't really count. Technology. In my opinion, there's really cutting edge technology, bleeding edge technology, and old technology. Bleeding edge technology is the newest thing that people are trying to figure out how it works. It may not at all decrease your bottom line or increase your bottom line, and it may not be something you're going to be using in 2 years. It's new. Cutting edge technology is something that has been proven, but not many people have it. It will increase your bottom line by decreasing your costs and increasing your customer service. I'm not gonna go through all dentistry, but I've got some examples of what I consider cutting edge technology in orthodontics. (3D cone beam imaging). We have these. Sure. Okay. Are y'all familiar with 3D cone beam? These are the kind of images we can take in our office now. In orthodontics, don't do this on every patient. But anytime there's a missing tooth, or a tooth I don't know where it's at, or a patient that I think has pathology, we'll take a 3D cone beam. We'll take one of these scans to check. Impacted canines.
Ok, por favor, miren, para hacer la interactividad de la conferencia un poco más dinámica, vamos a proseguir a receptar preguntas de parte de ustedes del público. Por favor, levanten la mano para ir progresivamente receptando las preguntas. Traducimos a Patrick y van a ser solventadas. Entonces, estamos abiertos, por favor, en este momento.
Do I have a question? All right. So 3D cone beam, to me, it was bleeding edge 5 years ago because it cost $200,000 to put one in your office. I can put one in my office for less than $100,000, and I can use them and they pay for themselves through increased diagnostic accuracy and speed of treatment. You can use these. I don't just use them. My endodontist uses them to look for root anomalies. My oral surgeon uses them to make implant stents and do their implant diagnosis. So it's used by, your oral surgeons use it to look for how the impaction of the wisdom teeth is and how to place implants and for pathology. And my endodontists use them to look for roots that are not normal. So my whole community uses my 3D cone beam machine. Accelerated orthodontics. This works. Are y'all familiar with Propel? All right. There is something called the wrap effect. When bone is injured, healing cells migrate into the injured bone, and tooth movement occurs very rapidly in healing bone. You can see that if you extract a tooth and begin closing the space quickly. That space closes more in the first 90 days than it does in the next 6 months. What Propel is basically a small screw. And you just go in and you make holes in the bone around where you want the tooth to move. The teeth move much faster in injured bone. Where I find it works amazingly well is if you have an older patient that has a knife edge or small ridge. Trying to close that space is very difficult with traditional braces. if I have a patient that's missing a lower second premolar for a long time, trying to move the back teeth forward is very difficult. With Propel, I will not do it distal to the first premolar, but I will do it mesial to the first molar and the second molar. And now I am using this for selective anchorage because the front teeth don't move back, but the back teeth move much more quickly forward, and the bone is healing, so you get a better bone response to that. You can also use tags for that. We'll get to that. The Propel impacted canines. After that initial time of surgery, so the tooth starts slowing down. You can propel around that canine, and it will continue to move quickly like it did that first couple of months after the surgery. And this is just what it looks like. It's a little screw. You just go down and put screw holes in somebody's mouth. Exceldent, this is what I was talking about with Invisalign. They bite on this about 10 minutes a day, and it vibrates at a set cycle, and it's supposed to stimulate osteoblast and different factors in the PDL to speed up tooth movement. The research on this, the investigations on this are hit or miss. Some say it works, some say it doesn't. It does make the patients like it, and it's kind of a gimmick, and it makes it more comfortable. But I don't know that it makes teeth move any faster. Temporary anchorage devices. Are y'all using TADs? This has revolutionized diagnostics in orthodontics because we can do things we could never do before. We can use temporary skeletal anchorage without having to send a patient to surgery. The places where orthodontic surgery, for most corrections, possible to intrude maxillary molars. Now, I can intrude maxillary molars up to 3 millimeters using TADs. That saves surgery for open bites because most open bites, you get 2 millimeters in the front or 1 millimeter in the back, and there are very few open bites over 6 millimeters. So we can, adult class 2 patients that are maxillary protrusive, it's hard to get 100% anchorage with just orthodontics. But you can use the TAD here and move the front teeth back without the back teeth coming forward at all because you're not even pulling on the back teeth. And I'll use those where they're in the lower, where I'm missing a lower second premolar, and I'll pull my molars forward using the Propel and the TAD and keep my overjet and my overbite correct and bring those teeth forward. We've also started using them for early class 3 correction. When you run rubber bands on teeth, you get more dental movement than you get skeletal correction. In the past, when we wanted to get skeletal class 3 correction in a young patient, we'd have to put bone plates in, which was a trip to the operating room. Now I'll put traditional braces on the permanent teeth that they have, and I will put TADs in the back by the upper molars and in the bottom by the lower canines, and run my rubber bands off the TADs. And the class 3 correction I get from that is coming from, and you do it in a 7 to 9-year-old patient. You're not doing it in an adult, and you're not doing it even in a teen, but a 7 to 9-year-old patient. But you get true skeletal change with this. Be prepared for some loose TADs though, because the bone is not that dense at that age, but it's still way more affordable and more comfortable than putting bone screws in surgery. This is one of my offices. The way I decide on an office is I want it to be convenient. How is it convenient? It's convenient by being visible. Patients have to know where you're at. I don't know how it is in Ecuador, but I'm going to be on a major road where they're driving by and they're going to know that's where my office is. It's not going to be a castle, but it's going to be nice. Okay? When you walk in, they're going to feel comfortable. But they're going to feel welcome. They're not going to feel like they're afraid to sit down on the fancy seat. It's going to be modern. Nobody wants to walk into an office and feel like they walked back into the past. They want to think their doctors are modern. So if you've got things that look old, heck, just paint and put new carpet in. Don't have your stuff look old. This is my next partner. This is Dr. Brian, and that's a typical operator. In my office, the way we run, the most efficient I have found is 6 clinic chairs and 2 consultation chairs. If I put less than that, then my doctor is sitting around doing nothing sometimes. And if I have more than that, then the chairs are staying open and patients are just sitting there waiting. Like, I can train a doctor in my systems, in my theory, to run 6 clinic chairs efficiently where patients don't wait more than 15 minutes and do 2 consultations. Because the consultation, there's time in that room without a doctor. And if you have only one, you can only see, that consultation is going to take half hour, 40 minutes between paperwork and everything. You're only going to be able to see 6 or 7 consultations in a day, where if you've got 2, you can see 14, 15 consultations in a day. So all of my offices are designed to have 6 treatment chairs and 2 consultation chairs. This is that's Wilson. That's mine likes me more than his likes him. I really was impressed and kind of awed when I stood below the statue of the Virgin Mary. That was amazing. My advice to you before we make this question and answer is to pray a lot, because God does answer prayers. Be thankful, have fun. You walk into a place that nobody's happy. Have fun in your office, have parties in your, make your staff have fun, and your patients will have fun. Celebrate things. Celebrate taking braces off. Celebrate putting braces on. Celebrate birthdays. We have a big spinning wheel that the kids get to spin for prizes on their birthdays, birthday month. You know, make the work experience fun. You're going to spend more of your awake time with your patients and your staff than you will with your family. You're going to do it for a long time. I've been doing it 35 years. Have fun in your office. Fun is contagious. Your patients are going to feel that fun. What are they going to do? They will go back to their friends and tell them, you got to go here. That is a great place. It's fun. Treatment is excellent. The office is modern. You don't have to wait around. Everybody's got stuff to do. Everybody's busy. Get them in and out nicely, comfortably, and quickly. And remember, treat people the way you want your own family to be treated. Not necessarily how you want to be treated. You probably want to be treated with, you know, make it hurt, make it go faster. That's not the way you treat it. Treat it the way you want your own daughter or son to be treated. And again, I'm going to get back to your patients won't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So always make sure they know how much you care about them. Okay, now this is your lecture. I teach residents on a weekly basis back home, and the most productive parts of my seminars are the back and forth. Do not be shy. You're here to learn. If you got questions about something, if I don't know it, I can find out and get back to you even. So does anybody have questions?
Jack, un momentito. Déjame decir una cosa, por favor. Jack ha estado en este negocio haciendo esto por 30 años. Él tiene una de la segunda más grande odontología en los Estados Unidos. La experiencia de él es tremenda en todo. Ha sido profesor de odontología y en negocios personales ha hecho todo lo que todo el mundo lo quiere hacer. Entonces, por favor, cualquier pregunta que tú tienes, cualquier pregunta que vimos antes en los slides, si necesita que te ayude o que te la traduzca, por favor nos avisas y te ayudamos. Si yo no puedo, aquí tenemos otros muchachos que nos ayudan.
And Wilson, if they want specific things about mechanics, about diagnosis, anything.
Y si quieren cualquier pregunta de mecánica, de diagnosis, lo que usted quiera, ahora es el momento de preguntar. ¿Ok?
Come on.
What kind of things do you use for make the patient feel comfortable?
La pregunta es qué clase de cosas tú usas para que una persona se sienta confortable en la oficina.
From a mouth standpoint or from an experience standpoint?
How do you treat them?
First, know them, address them by their name, talk to them at each visit before you get in their mouth, make eye contact with them. If you have your staff find out something about them, if little Pedro plays football, ask him how his football game went. If it's his birthday, wish him a happy birthday. But be one-on-one. In patient experiences, they've found that two doctors, one comes in and does the treatment in 5 minutes, 5 minutes. Doesn't talk to the patient, just sits down and does the job. The other one comes in, does that in 20 minutes. Okay. The other one comes in, makes eye contact, talks to them, is nice to them, and does the same job in 5 minutes. When you ask those patients that afternoon who spent more time with them, who do you think they think spent more time with them? The 5 minute. The 20-minute one, they have very little memory of it because there was no interaction, no human interaction. They were treated like a piece of meat. Treat them like people. Be caring. You're going to be a better doctor if you care about your patients because you're going to do better things when you care about people.
¿Alguna otra pregunta?
¿Alguna otra pregunta?
In your clinical experience, how percent is the patients who use the accelerator phenomenon? And which is the most effective for you?
Probably less than 20% of my patients will use accelerated, more of my Invisalign patients, but traditional brace patients, less than 20%. It's special cases where you need large tube, the Propel, and I typically use the Propel in combination with a TAD because it's usually a big ground movement, and I don't want other teeth to move. So I will use skeletal anchorage to move those back teeth forward or to move that canine into place. And I use my TADs probably 90% of the time as stationary anchorage. So I'm not going to pull against the TAD. I'm going to use the TAD to lock down my arch wire on the other teeth. And then I'll use traditional orthodontic mechanics to move the tooth, but the other teeth don't move because the TAD is holding them in place. Come on. Y'all know it all?
For me, it's little bit difficult to talk about prices. How much is the treatment will cost to the patient? Do you have another person to talk about this?
In my office, the doctor is never associated with fees. Never. Doctors do not talk money. My treatment coordinators discuss financial arrangements. And in those financial arrangements, we focus upon their monthly payments rather than the total fee. So that they never, we're honest. You sign a contract that is legal, it's written with the total fee, no interest, broken down, but we focus on the monthly payments. And our initial working with them is, where would you be comfortable with your monthly payment? And that way we can start at our monthly payment if they're comfortable with it. But we know how low we can go with our monthly payments. And if you focus on making it affordable, your starts are going to go up. Most people in the United States can afford a monthly payment way more than they can afford a large expense. So we try to make everything a monthly payment. It's like a cell phone bill or a cable bill or insurance bill. It's just one thing a month. They know how much a month they can afford.
Les digo una cosa, les traduzco un poco de esa pregunta porque era muy buena. Y lo que el doctor Devereux dice, que una cosa que en el negocio que él tiene, él nunca habla de dinero. Nunca. Dice, yo soy un doctor y las cosas financieras, él no habla de eso. Es algo muy importante porque tiene una persona especialmente que les ve los seguros y cuánto puede pagar mensualmente y todos estos aspectos financieros. Entonces a él no le gusta hablar de eso con los pacientes.
How many here are general dentists, going to be regular odontologists?
¿Cuántas personas aquí van a ser dentistas nada más? Solamente dentistas. ¿O todos son odontólogos?
Son dentistas generales.
Generales. They're all general.
Yeah.
We are studying in master's degree.
Okay. Are there any general dentists here? What?
I don't know.
¿Hay dentistas aquí o no? ¿No? No. No general.
Permítame hacer una pregunta. Ustedes terminaron ya esta vida, consecuentemente son dentistas, están haciendo la maestría. Did you really,
No.
Yeah, the thing is that all of them are already finished the first degree. They are dentists. They're studying for a master degree.
Let's talk a little bit about what you can do for your general dentist. Okay. Do y'all work closely with your general dentist? What kind of stuff right now would you feel like you need to be able to work closely with the dentist who are going to be referring patients to you? Okay. The things, okay. You be spokesman. Sure. What procedures do you think you'll be doing for your general dental colleagues on your patients to make their life better? For both, the general dentist and your patients. What can you, other than just straighten teeth, what can you do for your general dentist?
Actually, I feel I recently graduated for the general dentist. I have studied biomechanica, my master's degree, and I know many things about orthodontics. But general dentist, I know it's important because he could make things like prophylaxis or direct restoration of the nose, something like that.
The things that we work closely with our general dentists on are small lateral incisors. If you want to do veneers on small lateral incisors, does nature always put them in the right place? No. Can you do that with just a veneer? No. But orthodontics can put the teeth in the right spot so that your general dentist can go in and do beautiful veneers. Okay. All right. A tooth that's been fractured and doesn't have enough crown to put the crown on. You can do crown lengthening with orthodontics and give them the 2 to 3 millimeters of tooth that's necessary for biological width to create the margins on a sperm tooth structure where they would have had to pull that tooth to do an implant. But orthodontically, you can do that. Setting them up for implants. Now, when you're working with a general dentist and an oral surgeon doing implants, when should the orthodontics be done? It should be done first. Most missing teeth have been missing for a while. You have to either open the space. Sometimes I can avoid a bone graft by opening the space, closing it some, and then reopening it, leaving alveolar bone there. Now the patient doesn't need a bone graft. They can get their implant placed in a healing bone ridge, which is much better. Bone grafts tend to fall apart after a while. You got lots of time. It does take more time. MBT? Okay, MBT is just an acronym for the the 3 doctors that put it together. I've used MBT. It's not that much different than a Roth technique or an Andrews technique. MBT is more anchorage sparing. It puts less distal root tip on the lateral incisors and the canines and the centrals so that you're not moving the maxillary arch forward when you're doing your initial leveling and alignment. Now, when you do that, in my opinion, I don't think the cosmetics of the case are as nice as with an A company or an Andrews prescription, Andrews or Roth prescription. MBT, if you're really worried about anchorage, it's good. I don't like the torque on the lower second molars. I tend to get posterior cross bites with MBT, posterior if I'm wearing class 2 elastics, where I don't get that with Roth or with Andrews. So MBT is just a bracket prescription. That's all it is. And if you like it and you understand how its weaknesses and its pluses, it's fine. But I can tell my smiles from an MBT smile across the room. I like a little more just a root tip on my centrals and laterals. And I like my canines just a tiny bit more prominent. Okay. Are most of the students physics students or math students? They're dentists. When I asked if they're general dentists, nobody raised their hand. You have braces on. Do you have any questions about it? Not really? Yeah. How are scanners going to change orthodontics? Y'all want to know what I think about the future? I think scanners are going to allow, scanners and 3D printers are going to allow us to treat more people more reasonably in our offices more quickly with clear alignment therapy. Right now with Invisalign, I've got a $1,400 lab fee that's going to come back on every patient. If I can scan them in my office and print my aligners, now you can't print aligners yet, but that's going to come in the next 2 to 3 years. And if I can print my aligners in my office, then I can deliver my aligners the same day, just like I'm doing my braces the same day. And if one's not fitting, you rescan them and make some more. And right now, if one's not fitting in Invisalign, it's a 2-week process. They got to get them in, rescan, do a reboot, send it off to Invisalign, and wait for it to come back. Scanners, I don't have to take pictures in my office of the mouth anymore. That was a 5-minute procedure in my office, taking intraoral pictures. I don't have to take study models in my office anymore. All I have to do is do a color scan. Now I've got all the pictures of the mouth that I need. Take a scan with their bite, so I know where they're biting. I don't have to worry about paralleling my camera because the scan is going to create that on its own. And I can do that at 2 minutes an arch. Alginate impressions or PVS impressions take a lot longer than that, and you got to retake them a lot of times. The scanners are just, it tells you right there whether you got it or not. So my records time has gone down from a 45-minute appointment to about a 20-minute appointment. Digital x-rays are available right then. Scans are available right then. The only thing I have to take with a camera is full face and side photographs. Those things are on the cutting edge of technology right now. Scanners used to be about $100,000 and took 10 minutes per arch. Now I can get a good color scanner for about $38,000, and it takes 2 minutes an arch. I have an assistant, not a doctor, an assistant can do it in about 2 minutes. That saves me more. Just my PVS impressions cost more per month than my scanner costs.
Do you prefer a Invisalign and MBT?
I prefer best for my patient. If I can treat, like my adult periodontal patients, I treat all of them with Invisalign. One, it's gentler. You don't have uncontrolled tooth movements. 2, the teeth are real long because they're periodontal patients, so the Invisalign, you don't have to put attachments on the teeth because the Invisalign can grip a large tooth. And 3, it actually stabilizes their occlusion while you're moving the teeth versus teeth getting mobile with traditional braces. That makes sense?
Yeah, it's better for periodontal.
Yes. I do, and they can take it out and brush and floss, which periodontal patients need to do better anyway. Now, my teen patients, I do offer Invisalign, which is Invisalign for teen patients. I don't do it with extractions. I don't do it with class 3 patients. And I don't do it if they don't have long enough clinical crowns. A lot of young patients, the height of contour of the tooth is at the gingival margin. And if Invisalign can't pop over the tooth, my experience is it doesn't work well. And so usually my Invisitine patients are 16 to 17-year-old females because they tend to mature earlier and they're interested in that. My boys, I'll tell you, most of my teen patients in the United States want regular braces with colors, which is why you asked about self-ligating. I did self-ligating for a while, but I was losing patients to the orthodontist down the street who put colors on. 90% of my teen patients wanted colors. They wanted different colors on their teeth. And so I'm going to give my patients what they want. Like
I have a question. How often do you use tomography combings with your patients?
That varies by the patients that walk through the door. Someday I'll get 3 patients that have impacted canines. Every one of those people is going to get a cone beam. Some days, everybody comes in, they got all their teeth, they have no medical history to give me a concern about pathology, their periodontal situation is excellent, and their third molars have already been removed by their oral surgeon, so I'm not going to do a cone beam. If they have impacted third molars or impacted canines, well, I don't know about in Ecuador, but we get a lot of impacted second molars. The mandibular second molars tend to get impacted. And I'll use them there so that my surgeon, I can tell him exactly where I want my attachment. In the past, I would send a patient to an oral surgeon, he'd open them up, and he'd put the attachment on any place that he wanted to. Now I have a cone beam, I can tell him right where I want that attachment placed so that I can get my vectors of force correct and my impacted patients move about twice as fast as I used to. And I have much, much less root resorption on surrounding teeth because I'm putting my vectors of force so that the crown of that canine or that second molar is not moving into the root of any of the adjacent teeth.
What do you prefer MBT prescription?
I prefer a Roth prescription, strictly from a cosmetic standpoint. I think the teeth look prettier with Roth. MBT straightens teeth beautifully. It's an anchorage sparing prescription. MBT, Roth, and Andrews are all the same braces. It's a different prescription as to what is cut into the brace. And they're pretty similar. There's only a 4 to 5 degree difference in tip or angulation or torque in MBT versus Roth versus Andrews. It's not like they're radical. Do y'all know how Larry Andrews came up with straight wire? Got a whole bunch of untreated normals and duplicated that prescription. I used that for a long time. Then I went to MBT, and then I went back to Roth because I find that the cosmetics of my cases look better. My patients were happier, and that's personal. I know that I need to have better anchorage control with Roth than I do with MBT, but I'll do that because in the long run, people are going to come to you because of the way they look. They'll be happy because of the way they look. Very, very few of my patients come in and are worried about a class 1 molar, although I get class 1 molar, but that's not what my patients are worried about. My patients are worried about right here. That's it. And you got to make that look good. But there are people who really like MBT, so I'm not going to say anything bad about it, just I think the cosmetics are better. That's
How about meniscus in class 3 patients?
Yes.
How do you?
Okay, that's an excellent, there was a good research article that was co-done, it was done in, I think, 3 universities, but part of it was done at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, where I went to school. Bill Prophet was, I don't know, your orthodontist. Prophet was my instructor. And they were using surgical bone plates for class 3 anchorage with class 3 elastics. They would put a 3-screw plate here and a 3-screw plate up on the above the upper first molar. And they'd run elastics straight, nothing on the teeth, just on that. and they found that they could get skeletal change, mostly through maxillary protrusion, up to the age of 11 or 12. Where if you were doing it on teeth, the skeletal change would be so slow that you get way more dental change than you would get skeletal change. And I asked Prophet at a meeting about 4 years ago, and I said, Bill, if I locked down my patients with TADs and ran my elastics with the TADs, would I get the same effect? Because you probably would, but you'd have multiple TAD failures, because at that age, the bone is not that dense. And I said, well, you know, it cost my patients about $60 to get a TAD put in. It cost them about $1,500 to get the bone screws in. I can put in a lot of TADs and not have them go through the risks of general anesthesia or have them go through the pain of surgery, because I can do the TADs in my office. And I'm getting just about as good a results doing it with TADs with traditional mechanics, and I'm still getting the skeletal change. Do you understand what I'm getting about skeletal versus dental change? Okay. If my maxillary first molar can't move forward because the TAD is holding it back, even if I run class 3 elastics to that molar, it's not going to come forward. So the sutures have to change in the maxilla for there to be any change in overjab. And so what you're doing with your TADs is the same thing you'd be doing with the bone screws in that UNC research project that used class 3 elastics on the bone screws.
In which age?
I will do regular old protraction headgear off the upper molars in 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. I will use the TADs on, by that time I've got 4 incisors in an upper molar, 4 incisors in a lower molar, and I feel comfortable putting fixed appliances on and using TADs to lock down. Okay. And that would go from about 8 to 11. I still think protraction, Delaire Facebook works great on 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. Come on. Yeah. A wise man knows what he doesn't know and finds out.
Do you give the doctor can, or do you give in tracing, supplementary tracing on the 3D coordinate on tomography? I don't think they've come up with a good program for that yet. They don't even have a good reference standard to do, what do you call it, superimpositions 3D yet. Where do you base here with Ceph? We know cell Nazi online is where, or Franco horizontal. You've got points where you can see where to do your superimpositions. And without superimpositions, really, what are you using the combing for? We use it for the things that my combing machine is used for is to make my orthodontics better by knowing where my impacted teeth are. Also, if you've got another thing that's good for it, if you have a patient that on your Panorex looks like they have short roots, a lot of times that's an anomaly from a flared tooth. Where if I have a short root patient, before I start treatment, I'm going to take the cone beam to see if the roots really are short. A significant number of those people that look like they have short roots on a cone beam, on a Panorex, don't have short roots. It's just an anomaly from the flaring of the incisors. But then my surgeons use it for surgical planning, for orthodontic surgery, for their third molar surgery, for difficult impacted canines, things like, you'd be surprised on a 3D x-ray how many times the crown of the canine is in between the roots of the central and the lateral. And if you just pull it down, you're going to destroy the roots of both those teeth. Where with the cone beams now, almost all the time, my initial movement on an impacted canine is distal. I'm putting an attachment on my first molar, and I'm pulling the tooth distally away, and I'm having my surgeon put the attachment on the canine as close to the cusp tip without going in front of the roots of the lateral or the central, so that when I move it distal, it's tipping that tooth distally away from the roots of the central and lateral. It used to be a given you were going to lose lateral incisor roots with an impacted canine. Now, pretty much if we catch them early, we don't have anything to do. How long have you been in practice? 20 years? You've seen a lot of change. Many changes. I feel like
I lived through the golden age of orthodontics, because when I started, we put bands on every tooth. All we had was Elgiloy or stainless steel wires, and all we had were, we called them vanilla, but standard edgewise brackets, which meant there was no torque tip or in-outs based on the bracket. And now we have, you've got super elastic NiTi, you've got NiTi, you've got TMA, you still have your stainless steel. You've got prescription brackets that glue onto the teeth. When I started, you needed 8 millimeters of space just to put your braces on. So everybody got teeth pulled. If you had a patient that came in with 3 or 4 millimeters of crowding, you'd have to pull teeth because it took 8 more millimeters of space to put the braces on the patient. And so if you look at cases that were treated 20, 30 years ago, they all had premolars pulled. And that was not because we all thought they needed to have premolars pulled. We just couldn't put braces on without pulling the premolar. And so what I've seen is it used to take 5 visits to get a set of braces on. And now we do it in 1 day. We do diagnosis. With digital X, we used to have your pictures developed out of your office. You used to have your x-rays were hand developed. Now everything is right there. I mean, you guys are coming in a whole different time. But this is what's critical, and I teach my residents this daily. It is more important for you to get your diagnosis, treatment plan, and your bracket positions perfect. In the old days, when we put a band on, you could hardly put a band on wrong. As long as you had it even with the marginal ridges, it was in the right place. Believe me, you could put brackets on the wrong place. And with super elastic wires, in my mechanical philosophy, the only wire I'm going to place, if I place one that I can bend, is my very last wire. Which means that if the brackets are in the wrong position, by the time I get to my last wire, those teeth are really messed up. They look worse than when I started. I've bought a whole bunch of practices from old men who never learned how to put brackets on because they were trained with bands. And they could never get teeth straight with brackets because they never knew how to put brackets on. So focus. Right now, it used to be, when I was trained, a good orthodontist was a wire bender. Now, a good orthodontist is a bracket placer or a diagnostician, because with Invisalign, you don't need to place brackets, but you gotta learn, there's more diagnosis that's necessary with Invisalign, because you can't use therapeutic diagnosis easily. Do you know the concept of therapeutic diagnosis? Most of your therapy you're going to use to modify your diagnosis on an ongoing basis. So if you thought a tooth was going to move one way, you put the braces on, put the wire in, and they come back 2 months later, and it doesn't look anything like you thought, you're going to use that knowledge to change what you're doing. Okay? How many times do you have a class 2, half-cusp class 2 patient? After your first visit, and now they're solid full cusp class 2, your treatment plan's got to change because it's different now. With Invisalign, you don't get that option without having another round of rebooting and reimpressioning and sending it off, because they're going to send you all the aligners right at the beginning. So you better spend some time on your diagnosis and ClinCheck with Invisalign. I see too many people that weren't trained with Invisalign just check off their ClinCheck and say, that's fine. Big mistake. Sure.
Do you prefer a direct implantation or?
I have done both. 90% of my patients elect to do a same-day start. In a same-day start, you can't effectively do indirect bonding. When I was doing a 2-visit start procedure where they come in for initial diagnosis and treatment planning, and they came back with their braces, we did indirect bonding on all those patients. But now that they want their braces that very day, what I'll do is I'll do a quadrant at a time. I'll place mouth expanders on. My assistant will prep the teeth and put the brackets on with a light shield. And I'll come, or one of my partners will come, position the brackets, and then set it. The doctor time on a banding in my office is about 7 minutes. And so it's very efficient. Now the chair time is about 35, but the doctor time is 6 to 7 minutes. And I run basically a doctor time schedule. And I train, almost all of my doctors, my partners, I have 8 partners, almost all of them were my students. So I trained them on how I want it done.
I like the accelerator. Very interesting for me. So my question is, it could be used for another kind of process, or just for surgical process? I mean, in the post-surgical.
What was the original thing you liked? What?
The accelerator.
The accelerator. Oh yeah, the which accelerator? The propel or the accelerator?
The one, the first one.
The little screws.
Yes.
I'm more familiar with using it in orthodontics. I could see how it could possibly be used in grafting, bone grafting procedures to prepare the bed where you place the bone graft. You'd irritate the bone where you're placing the bone graft, and that would cause, I would probably do that a week before I did my bone graft, so that that bone would be actively in a healing mode. You'd already have the migration of your cells, the different cells that are necessary. Because the biggest failure of bone grafts is them not integrating. And if you've got active blood flow and active cells already in there, you'd probably have a more, I don't know how many studies on it, I'm just saying. That would probably be a place that I'd use it. Also, I used it on myself when I got in an accident and I fractured one of my wisdom teeth. I had good wisdom teeth, everything was fine. I got a car accident, slammed down, and one of my wisdom teeth fractured a cusp off, and rather than get a crown on it, I had them taken out. And I had my partner do propel around my wisdom teeth in the back, and when I went to get them pulled out, they came out easier and they healed faster because there was already active healing on it. Which is another thing. How do y'all schedule, when you have to do premolar extraction, when do you do it in orthodontics? You do it before you put your braces on? You do it, I do my initial alignment first, and then I do my extractions. The teeth come out very easily because they're loose from the braces. But I've never had a dry socket in a tooth that had orthodontic movement on it. And the space closure is way, way, way faster. And if you're already aligned, you can start your space closure mechanics within the first week of extraction. So the other thing is, in the old days, we used to make them get their teeth pulled before we did braces. Half the people wouldn't start their braces because they were afraid of getting the teeth pulled. Once you line them up and they see how far their front teeth stick out, nobody gives me any trouble about getting their teeth. One more question. Right here.
So I got a little curious about this proper treatment. The thing is, do you use this treatment for general patients, like in any patient you can do it, or it's just for severe cases? And if it's so, how long the treatment takes, or at least how much is faster?
All right. I think there are 2 ways to look at severity of diagnosis. I use propel when I've got an individual tooth that needs to be moved a long way. It may be an easy case, but one tooth needs to be moved a long way. And so I will use propel to accelerate the movement of that tooth. Like if you've got pretty straight tooth, but you got one tooth out here, use some propel around that tooth's gonna move 2 to 3 times faster and more comfortably than it would if I just pulled on. I just moved it with plain old orthodontics. I don't use it on every case. I only use it when I have to move a tooth in a way that I think that the prolonged movement of that tooth would cause the other teeth around it to what we call dump or move towards that tooth rather than the other teeth staying out. Because if you've got, let's just say I can move a tooth in 3 months with propel, but it's going to take 9 months with regular braces. The other teeth that I'm using as anchorage, if I don't use a TAD, will only have 3 months worth of movement in the propel case, where I would be moving them 9 months towards that crooked tooth without the propel. Does that make sense to it accelerates, yeah, and it works. I mean, it works. And propel will say you can do it with topical anesthetic. They scream. give them a local infiltration, small amount, right where you're going to do your propel. You know, I'll use topical to numb the gingiva, and then I'll just do a little bit of infiltration right where I'm going to make my dots. I don't want the tooth asleep. Why wouldn't I want the tooth anesthetized? Because I want to know if I'm running into the roof. When I'm doing it, I want to know if I'm going to run into the roof. If you don't anesthetize the tooth, they'll feel it if you're getting close. If you break through the PDL and get into cementum, they'll tell you before you do it. Where if you give a block anesthesia or a lot of anesthesia, then the tooth's going to be numb and you won't know. So just a little bit of infiltration in the gingiva where you're doing it. Thank you guys very much. Did y'all find this helpful? Did you find it helpful? Okay. All right.
Bueno, muchas gracias. Finalmente vamos a hacer la entrega de un certificado por parte del subdecano a Patrick Devereux. El certificado reza lo siguiente: la Universidad Central del Ecuador, el Vicerrectorado Académico de Posgrado, la Facultad de Odontología y el Centro de Física confieren el presente certificado a Jack Patrick Devereux, Jr., Doctor of Dental Surgery and Master of Science, por su participación en el conversatorio académico desarrollado en el auditorio de la Facultad de Odontología el 4 de diciembre de 2017. En calidad de conferencista con el tema Cirugía Ortognática, Biomecánica en la Técnica MBT.
Doctor Patrick, la Facultad de Odontología, y en especial el posgrado de Ortognática de la Facultad de Odontología de esta universidad, nos sentimos muy honrados con su presencia. Estamos seguros de que su experiencia, sus conocimientos que hemos adquirido va a enriquecer nuestro nivel académico. Le aseguro, doctor Patrick, que las puertas de esta facultad siempre estarán abiertas para enriquecer nuestros conocimientos. Muy amable. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, muchas gracias. Thank you, muchas gracias.
Finalmente, las palabras del doctor Guillermo Terán Acosta, director del Centro de Física.
Señor subdecano, profesor, Jacques, doctores, estudiantes de posgrado, estudiantes de grado. Como Centro de Física, en conjunto el desarrollo de este conversatorio, sin antes de agradecer al profesor y a las autoridades de odontología, quería expresar, previo a este diálogo, hemos tenido un conversatorio con las autoridades de aquí de la Facultad de Odontología. En ese sentido, se está organizando el Congreso de Ortodoncia aquí en la facultad. El profesor Jacques Patrick colaborará específicamente en este congreso con unas ponencias eminentemente prácticas, que fue uno de los compromisos con la venia de los directivos de aquí de nuestra universidad. En segunda instancia, el profesor Patrick también hace extensivo la invitación justamente para doctores en especialidad y estudiantes de doctorado, los doctores puntuados, para realizar una pasantía acá en las oficinas que denominan, son estos departamentos de ortodoncia acá en Estados Unidos. Eso queríamos justamente hacerles expresivo a ustedes en este contexto para la participación. Con todo, a la salida les solicito inscribirse para tener nosotros la base de datos, y también hay otro compromiso del profesor Patrick, en el sentido de que ya con la base de datos nosotros hacemos la entrega, el profesor permanentemente realizará un feedback cuanto tiene que ver en esta área del conocimiento, que yo no soy experto. En todo caso, ustedes como expertos pues harán las preguntas pertinentes y el acercamiento adecuado acá con el profesor Patrick. Le agradecemos nuevamente esta colaboración que ha tenido para con nuestra universidad. Quisiera despedirme sin antes expresar que la Universidad Central del Ecuador está en un proceso de reforma, un proceso de cambio. Y el proceso de cambio debemos empezar con un proceso de cambio de pensamiento. Tal es el caso que en el Salón Áurico nosotros estamos utilizando un paradigma expresado por Maturana, que es el paradigma del amor. Y tengo entendido, tratando de acoger toda la parte de la exposición del profesor Patrick, está orientado justamente a que nosotros como académicos, como profesionales de la educación, como profesionales de las diferentes áreas del conocimiento, debemos maximizar la parte del ser humano, la parte humanista, apoyarnos en el paradigma del amor, que es la esencia justamente de toda la estructura de vida. Y ese ha sido uno de los compromisos que estamos desarrollando a nivel de universidad en todas las áreas del conocimiento. No me queda más que nuevamente agradecer aquí a las autoridades de la Facultad de Biología, a las autoridades centrales, a ustedes, grandes profesionales en esta línea muy delicada, muy profunda, a los compañeros estudiantes que han venido de diferentes provincias, a los compañeros representantes de los colegios de odontólogos que les tenemos aquí presentes en este conversatorio. Muchísimas gracias a ustedes por esta participación, y la Universidad Central, como bien lo manifestó el señor vicedecano, está abierta cuando se trata justamente de producir de la producción de conocimiento mediante la investigación, y qué mejor con este cuerpo de académicos internacionales y nacionales que nos están colaborando permanentemente en este quehacer de la academia universitaria. Muchísimas gracias, tengan ustedes un buen día. Al profesor, nuevamente, muchísimas gracias. Muchísimas gracias. A todos ustedes, muchísimas gracias. Tengan ustedes un buen día. Gracias.
Gracias.